Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Master Author Meeting Live. I'm your host, Preston Weeks, and joining me today is the number one selling author in the world, author of book series like Chicken Soup for the Soul, Aladdin Factor, 1 Minute Millionaire, Power of Focus, and so many more. Mark Victor Hansen. He has 3 Guinness Book of World Records, and he sold over 500 million books. And he's here to teach us tricks and tools and answer questions live for you so that you can learn and that you can learn how to share your story, because it's his mission now to empower people to share their story. So hopefully you have some inspiration. You get some inspiration today. And so welcome, Mark. Hello.
My pleasure. What a nice introduction. Thank you, Preston. Thank you.
Yeah. So, what we wanted to talk about, the discussion today is a general topic discussion, and it's about how to write a book. And so there's a few questions that we've got to start out with as we get going here. We've got the chat live. And so for you people that are out there watching or listening live in the various places that is out there, go ahead and type in the chat. If you have a question for Mark, go ahead and type it in the chat, and Mark will answer it live here today. So thank you, Mark, for joining us. Love you and appreciate you and your amazing wisdom and experience. And so, question number 1 that we've got here today is writing a book hard?
Yes and no. Yes, if you've never written one, probably very hard. No, if you've got it in your heart and soul and have been a lifelong reader, right? Every one of the writers that I study, and yesterday I was reading all the stuff by Lee Child, the guy who wrote Lee Child, the guy who writes all the Reacher books and he just is the greatest novelist ever, and everything he does is turned into a movie, of course, with Tom Cruise. And what he says, if you're a reader, you can write. Now, I said last time we were on this, if you're a writer, you'll learn to read. And I learned that in my kids' elementary school because like I said, I paid for $35,000 a locker, talked to the principal, said, look, we got all these foreign national kids at Kaiser Permanente Elementary School. So the point is, if you want to write with your heart and soul, like I want to communicate. So I started writing when I was 16. I'm in detention because as some of you who listened to me before know, I had a rock group and we made a lot of money. So we decided to do junior or senior skip day, whatever it was. 8 of us go to Chicago. One of the guys that didn't go with us tattled on us. We all got 40 days of detention, and in detention you had to have zipper lips. And there's this woman I wanted to date next to me, Yvonne, who never went out with me, by the way. But I wrote this thing, and she said, man, this is great. And they passed it around, and everybody gave me an A++ and said, oh, write more. And then she wrote on the bottom of it, may the swamps of Rangoon go into your throat and drown you. And I thought, wow, I've really hit a home run with my writing ability. So I have literally never stopped writing. I wrote on my way through school, undergraduate and graduate. And then, when I started speaking, people said, man, that story is great. Do you have it in a book? So I did a self-published book that we've talked about called Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win. Sold 20,000 copies of a self-published book. Cost us $1. We sold 20,000 copies, made $200,000. Mostly the little life insurance business, predominantly back in the 5 boroughs of New York. So it really worked. The only regret I have is I didn't write more. And yet I've written 318 books, or authored or co-authored. And I've got 4 or 5 rocking right now that I am just enamored with, because the more you write, the more you can write. And us versus being an athlete, and we're helping a lot of great superstar athletes write their books now, is you're done at 35 or 40, over and out, adios. I hope you didn't spend those $20, $30 million you're making a year. But the book business, it gets bigger and better as you get older, especially if you create a following and you create a network and you create a database. And even in a couple of days here, our dear friend Harvey McKay, How to Swim with Sharks and Not Get Eaten, he's having 250 of us at his birthday party, and we have a private meeting with Elton John, who he's bringing out to concert. It's a 3-day party. sort of like when you go to India, your 3-day party of one. Anyhow, so writing is, as far as I'm concerned, if you've got any ability at all, it's the greatest profession. You become an authority, and the middle word there is author. You become the expert. You get paid more. You go from a dollar-based economy into a results-based economy. And your first book could take 6 months or 6 days to write, or 6 years. I cover the whole 180-degree gamut there, but we can go on to any answer of any one of those questions. So is it hard? For some people, it's going to be hard. For me, I'm addicted. I got so many things that are in writing, and now I'm a YouTuber. And as you know, every day I do at least 1 to 5, and my numbers are just going like that. So it's really exciting because every one of you has an audience. Every one of you has a story. In our company, Mark Victor Hansen Library, which publishes books, says our brand motto is we bring your story, or stories, plural. We bring your story or stories to life. Predominantly as a fiction book, because fiction books sell 10,000 to 1. So it's a much better deal for you to sell a fiction book and get 10,000. If you're getting $1 a book, that'd be $10,000 versus $1. Seems like a wise choice in my mind, but then Press, you get to read the next question, and I hope I haven't over answered that too terribly much.
Yeah, no, that was perfect, and diving into it, and I think what makes it hard is kind of, I think, how connected you are, right, to it. Like, is it do you love what you're writing about? Is it your passion, or is it like a homework assignment from school? Because those are two different experiences. Yeah.
So if you're writing like a homework assignment, then it's going to be detestable. If you're writing something that you love and is going to make an impact and a contribution to the reader, then you're home free. And the other way to do it is partner up with somebody that is a great writer, or hire a ghost. Some of you online are rich enough, and the way our company works is we ghost write it for you, because a lot of people can't write irresistibly compelling stuff. Like James Patterson said, the best line I ever wrote was, "It happened to me," is, "I died twice in an hour." That's a hell of a first good line for a fiction book. And Patterson has obviously got more ghost writing for him. He comes out with a new book a month, and he comes out with big books with Dolly Parton, and one with, former President Clinton, male Clinton. It's amazing what you can do. And if you have a partner, a mastermind partner, and some of you remember I've taught, or you can look on YouTube and say a mastermind is two together, have the spirit of 11. They create a cooperative harmony that creates a third new goal. And that's what Dr. Jack Canfield and I did to take Chicken Soup from nowhere with 144 rejections to $1.5 million in a year and a half, then 5 million, and 10 million, and 15 million a year. And it has been an exciting and endless journey, because now there's a film out that I hope you'll all see with Michael Caine called The Bestseller, which is something we worked on for 20 years, and it just, finally has emerged onto the big screen.
Awesome. Now, one question that I've got here is, and you were kind of alluding to this a little bit, so we can expand a little bit on it, is how much time does it take to write a book? And this is a good question, because there's a lot of different types of books, and there's a lot of different ways that you can attack this. And so I want to see, what your opinion is of that. And maybe it's how much time it is to write a good book, or a valuable book, or what is. So yeah, what do you want to say to that?
Well, if you're going to write a book, let's make it valuable. Our friend, who we're doing his book right now, Jeff Hoffman, says chase excellence. So if you do excellent books, then they're going to be well read, and they are going to take some time. Now, what you got to do is slot down your life, whether you're going to write an hour a day, or 2 hours a day, or 3 hours a day, or all weekend long, or what it is that you're going to do to get your life operative. And when we're writing, helping somebody, a ghostwriter usually takes 6 months to a year to write a great book.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of work. I know I talk to some people, and they come and they're working with us, and they say, well, can I just send you what I've got and have you just put a book together for me? Like, well, that's not just a put it together thing. Like, for us, that's a 6-month project. We take this serious. This is not, this is something that we just don't throw together lightly.
Right.
And
Why writing a book for most people is hard, and that's why we created ghostwriting services, because people kept saying, well, can I write a book with you? Can I help you? Can I pay you to write my book? And suddenly, it's just like when Jack and I started, I taught Jack how to do heart-touching, soul-penetrating stories. We'd sell more product from the platform. And, we went from zero to, as an educator. He was a Harvard educator, but he didn't know how to make money, and went to making $1 million a year. So, because that's what I was teaching. I wanted to create 1 million millionaires then, and I still am on that project with like my 1 Minute Millionaire book. But, they kept saying, do you have that story in a book? So we did it. As I've done now 318 books, like I said. But ghostwriting is something that 90% of all the books ever written are ghostwritten. So when somebody asks you, will we look at it? We'll look at it. We'll talk to you. We'll have a call at Mark Victor Hansen Library, which you're part of, .com, and you can fill out the stuff and see if you qualify us and we qualify you. And we make everybody better off and no one worse off, because it is hard to write a book, but it's not hard if we find the book in you. And everybody has this great story. And that's why they say a graveyard's loaded with the most unwritten books, most unwritten song, the greatest inventions ever, because people get scared. And what we do is we hold your hand. We make the process less arduous, a little bit easier, more believable, more palatable. And then when we help you, we listen to what your ideas, your philosophy, your beliefs are, what you want to say, what you want to have as an impact in your business and your life. Then we write that, and pretty much every week or 2 weeks we send it to you, and you've got to say, yes, we're online or we're off target. And if we're off target, we go back and make it on target, because I gotta say, we've got exceedingly happy clients. Can I just tell one client, Press?
Yeah, go ahead.
So 6 months ago, Chris and I are talking to 700 people down in Houston, Texas at the Collective. Little kid comes up to me shaking, and he was worth $843,000, 14 years old, and had passed the real estate test at 8, bought his first property by shoveling snow and raising a little bit of money and having an owner carry back. We did his book, and that's the big brother, who's now 15 years old and a millionaire. And his book is magnificent. It's called The Garage, because he wants to inspire every kid. And what we do in our books is we put a prelogue, like, why are you writing this? And the epilogue, what is it that they can buy from you? Consulting services, come to your seminar training or whatever. He's helped more kids get rich than ever. But his little brother came up to Crystal, as you know, and pulled at her shirt sleeve and says, I'm rich too. I'm worth $250,000 and I'm only 12. Well, his name's Ethan, and his book came out and it's already gone to #1, but it's called The Treehouse. And because I said, look, Ethan, what is it you want in your heart of hearts? He said, well, I don't want any more people starving. I said, okay, I got an idea for you. And he said, what's that? I said, look, we could solve all the ecological problems of the world if we planted 1 trillion trees. Now, for some of you who don't know your numbers, 1,000 thousands, a million, 1,000 millions, a billion, 1,000 billions, a trillion, spelled with a T. Plant 1,000 trees. And he says, well, that's really good. He said, I like trees, and we have a little farm, and I'll plant a few trees, and I'll get others. And then so we did it, and his whole back sales page, the epilogue, says he did his whole research, and he said, here's the 12 trees you ought to do. And everybody knows about an apple tree and all that. And we did all those stories, because he said, well, what is the hero's journey in this, Mark? I said, well, do you know who Johnny Appleseed was? He said, no. But his dad said, look, I got that book at home for you by John Chapman. He planted 15,000 trees from New York to Ohio, apple trees, so no one would be hungry on the way going west. Well, I said, we could do that same thing, but now we could do the whole world. He said, look, if we plant these trillion trees, and they're all fruit trees, there's 12 kinds of fruit trees, nobody will be hungry in the whole planet. And today we can do it. He worked it out with a drone, and it's a great story. I read all of it, and these guys, little as young, they put perfect names on all the characters. The plot is wonderful. We have illustrations in these books that just make my heart sing. I mean, I am so elated that we're able to help the young world. I'm going to do a bonus point on that for everyone listening and watching and hearing it. When I wrote the book with Art Linkletter, How to Make the Rest of Your Life the Best of Your Life, we said you have to, once you're over 50 or 45, you got to have 2 20-somethings every year for the rest of your life, so you have friends forever. Because as you get older, more people peel off and give their parts back to the original equipment manufacturer. That's called debt, which, I'm going to live to be 127 options or no. But now I've got these kids that are not only great friends, but I get to be a great mentor. They get to be great mentees, and they are doing stellar. Like right now, they're at a conference with 4,000 people, and they will sell a good. You've been with the kids, so you know. When we did the Limitless thing, and you saw how many kids the kids signed books because everybody's interested in helping a kid along. Like when I sold greeting cards as a little kid. But if I had my own book, I would have sold the crap out of that. Sorry, I shouldn't have.
I know I had his book around here somewhere. But yeah, no, it's amazing. And the reach that it gives you too, it's created that kid has a platform, right? Now he's an amazing kid. He's doing amazing things. And now he wrote a book and he has an amazing platform to go and share his story, share his message, and share his things with the world. That's what's so cool about a book, which kind of leads us. Well, no, it doesn't lead us in our next question. Our next question is different, but this is a good question, though. It says, I was thinking of self-publishing. Will being self-published be a mark against me or my book?
Wow, that's a fascinating question. The answer is you got 4 ways to publish. You could self-publish, which obviously my first book was self-published, and back then in the historic days, it cost $1 a book. We sold them for 10. You can go to a major house if you can get in with one of 2 things: an agent or a. You've got to have a list today. We're told again of at least 200,000 people that they think you're going to sell at least 10% of. It's got to be a pretty big list, pretty robust. So you're going to be a Joe Rogan or a political type person, personally, or somebody with one of the more enormous podcasts that exists on the planet. Or you can go to a major house. Now, a major house is like your Random House or your Simon and Schuster or your Harper. And I'm with 8 major houses. Health Communications did the most for us. So, but once they publish the book, it's always incumbent upon you to be the full-fledged marketer. So when you're finished with a book, you're only 10% done. So the question is, will it besmirch you? Will it damage you to have a self-published book? Let me just do the opposite of that. When we're coming through and I interviewed the 101 best-selling fiction and nonfiction authors, I interviewed the guys that had sold 40 million copies of, before they did Who Moved My Cheese, they did 1 Minute Manager. Now I did 1 Minute Millionaire with Bob Allen, but 1 Minute Manager, they sold 40,000 copies, printing it on a little copy machine and stapling it together. And then they got $4 million for the book because they proved the book had viability. It taught 3 principles. It was done by Dr. Ken Blanchard. I was later on his board of directors for a long time. And the medical doctor from Harvard, Spencer Johnson. So no, by the way, it hurts you. Here's where it hurts you. One exposure, if it's bad, is overexposure. Like if you went up to a client and smashed their foot, that would be the wrong thing to do to get a client, right? If you give them a book that's a piece of garbage, then it's not going to work for you. So back to what we said, Jeff Hoffman says, chase excellence, have an excellent and extraordinary book. And the way you do that is one of the 38 points we teach in the Hansen Institute, which you're going to talk about before this is over, is that you've got to have feedback, which is a breakfast of champions. And when we did Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, we had 250 stories. We get it down to 101, and we had it tested by 12,000 kids electronically that were part of Nickelodeon that gladly tested on a scale of 1 to 10. This story is a 10. This story is a 10 plus plus plus. Meaning I like it so much I can repeat it immediately. I'll never forget. Well, heck, our publisher said teenagers ain't gonna buy that. They buy CDs, concert tickets, and clothes. I give my kids $50 to go to the mall. I said, "What happened to it?" Said the mall ate it. Said, well, what's true though is that we sold 19 million the first year. It just rocked to the top because it touched the soul. What happens is most people have their book written and then they read it and their spouse reads it, or maybe their best friend, and the best friend doesn't want to say, man, bad punctuation, you didn't start with verbs, you didn't do all that stuff. So you got to write a great book.
Very good. And I love that you added in there, getting the third party, like completely removed perspective, because it's true. You get around people and they go, "Oh, what do you think of it?" And you go, "Oh, it's great." And I I've seen that happen with a number of people. And so when you get someone who's too close to you or too friendly to you, and those are the people that are reviewing your book, you have to be weary and make sure that you're getting honest feedback. And so you need to get it from random people that actually read it. And if they don't read it, maybe that's a telling sign. Maybe that's like you got to rename it or reconnect it back in, because they don't see themselves reading it. They don't see themselves interested, in it. And so that's one of the biggest things. I know that's one of the biggest things that you teach people in your training academy that you run is titles and the importance of titles. And so do you want to speak to that for a second?
I will do titles in just 1 second. But the reason our book sold so well is that they're great stories backed up with great writing. And while Jack was a Latin scholar in high school and then a Chinese scholar at Harvard, third in his class, he always used to say, well, how is it that you can look at this story and reshuffle it and make it perfect before it goes out? And then we got to send it back and get a sign off from whoever gave it to us. Well, it's hard for most people to do that. But, luckily myself and my team have that extraordinary competence so we could do it. And we write a book for a market, right? You can't write a book for everybody. Now, yeah, books like The Alchemist sold 150 million and the movie's coming out here in scant days. But the fact of the matter is you got to write a book for a market. And luckily, that's why our books have titles on them. And now back to titles. Today's titles are best like our book, Ask. They're one-word titles, right? Here's our book, Ask, right? You've got one there. And it says The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. You can't miss it. And then you've got to have an extraordinary cover. And most people they do the cover last and the title last. As you're writing a book, I think you got to have the title so you're writing to something. But everybody needs to know how to ask themselves, ask others, ask God. Those are the 3 channels. And then when you get stuck asking, what are the 7 roadblocks to asking, or what are the 7 roadblocks why you won't write your book? That's what's in here. So it's got to be very clear. And the title's got to be emotional. And most people know that they're not asking enough. They don't feel comfortable asking. And in the subtitle, A Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, everybody intrinsically knows the emotional part is a subtitle. Intrinsically knows they've got a great destiny, but they haven't fulfilled it. And that's why I think, and guys like Joe Polish think, and Dan Sullivan thinks, and I'm really close friends with Dr. Daniel Amen and Dr. Moss, all the psychiatrists that I deal with, and one we're writing a giant book with right now, Dr. Lou Tartaglia, who's probably the most famous guy, Cleveland Clinic. Lou, all of them say the same thing. If you're not on purpose for your mission, and if you're watching this, your mission is to finish your book. And if you're not dedicated to it and on purpose, the danger is you'll go sideways and you'll use opioids or sideways alcoholism or sideways some other self-abuse, because you are here to fulfill your mission. I don't know what your mission is. This book asks you 178 questions. You get 2 copies, one for you and one for somebody else. Go over every one of those questions. We get gazillion letters from people saying, oh my God, I was ready to commit suicide. It didn't work. Nothing's working in my life. And now suddenly I am aware that I've got hope. And then in our publishing company, Mitzi Produce just wrote one on me called Relentless, because that's what people call me, Mr. Relentless. Anyhow, she got out 100,000 distributed. And again, we got boku letters, and all of them say the same thing. I was feeling hopeless. The Russians are blowing up. I didn't know if I was going to live another day. And all of a sudden I read your stories of overcoming all the objection, in our case, 144 publishers and all the other rejection I've had during my life. Right. And I taught one word. You got to say NEXT so you could, bypass it. And so that title is critical. The first thing they looked at, like I said, is the cover. Is the cover attractive enough to grab my attention? Because what everybody's trying to do today is grab attention. And if you're in a bookstore and it's face out, or if it's in the window of the bookstore, or if it's in a cash register at the bookstore, or if it's at the end aisle, does it jump at you? Ask jumps at you. And ask, what's ask? I don't know how to ask. I think I should know how to ask. I better go buy this book. And so what you do is you want book covers, and title is one of my Guinness records. I've helped more people have great titles than I guess anyone. And right now, if you go to Mark Victor Hansen Library and scroll through, you'll see that we got phenomenal titles like Fred Penny, the world's biggest attorney, as a personal injury attorney. He's got 6,500 attorneys. And what is so amazing is that he came and he flew in his little Gulfstream 650, and we met with him. And I said, man, you are in the legal business. My younger brother's an attorney. It's called a rainmaker, somebody that brings a business into the firm, like you saw on TV shows like Boston Legal. Brilliant show, by the way. The rainmaker finds the business, brings it in, everybody prospers. All the junior attorneys at work write it up and do the actual casework. And so what happened is Fred's got 6,500 attorneys working for him. He has the biggest clients on the planet. He did it inspired by one of my old buddies, Paul J. Meyer, the guy who started Legal Shield and all that. But the point is, he did it and has done it. And I said, you're the golden goose, but let's call the book Goose. And we got a giant gold egg on it. And the book's been number one now in 7 categories for the last 7 weeks or 8 weeks in a row. I might have that wrong. And yeah, it's going to keep getting bigger and better. And the point is, you can do it, but you need a little bit of mentorship. And we want to help you mentor it at hansoninstitute.com/books, right? Because everyone's got a book in them. Everyone's got a story in them. Everyone's got more to share. And there are people out there that want to read and need to read what you've got to share.
Well, that leads into our next question, which is, why should I write a book?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. I wrote a book called You Have a Book in You because I'm so keen on this, because book business has been not good to me. For 47 years, it's been phenomenal to me, and the people in it are phenomenal. Places I get to go have been phenomenal. 80 countries around the world, talked to 7 million people. I wrote down 101 reasons that you ought to write a book. First, because you are being told, everybody tells somebody, boy, that story should be in a book. I mean, almost everybody I talk to whispers in my ear, I've got this story. And then they want to stop me in the airport, or stop me while I'm getting my shoes shined, or stop me stop me while I'm exercising at the gym, whatever it happens to be, and say, I got a story. And I say, I'm sure you do, and I would love to hear it, but it's best if you first go through my stuff at hansoninstitute.com/books, and we really sort out what it is. Or you call in and tell us what your story is at markvictorhansonlibrary.com, and we help make sure you qualify to us and we qualify to you. Is that helpful, Press?
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then to dive in deeper, next question is, what would I write about?
There's the secret.
Yeah, how do you figure that one out? All right.
The whole gamut of stuff. And what I wanted to answer a minute ago is that we've got books coming out from basically 9 years old all the way up to, we got a 99-year-old. So first of all, age is irrelevant. I mean, Grandma Moses started painting at 97, and at 103, she got $1.3 million and didn't know that she had that talent. So first of all, I want to get rid of ageism as a thing. What will I write about? It's what we teach and ask. You go to bed tonight before you sleep, and 101 times before you go to sleep, you say, God, tell me the story, or universal intelligence, tell me the story I'm supposed to write about. What infinite intelligence? Let me know what I'm writing about. What do I? And now let's do that with a title. When Jack and I, in our respective homes, him in Santa Barbara and me in Newport Beach at the time, and I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, make a best-selling title, make a best-selling title, make a best-selling title. And what does that do? That pushes away all the noise. That gets away all the confusion. That gets away watching the media, having a kid with a broken arm, worrying about the kid failing in school. All the noise all of us have, the job, the failed contract that you didn't get, gets it away. And by the time you get to 101, your conscious, which makes a decision, imploded into your subconscious, which makes a provision, knows. And then it goes out to super intelligence, or God consciousness, or soul, which is infinite. And it comes back, and you say, in the middle of the night, you're going to wake up, because the law says, ask and you shall receive. So you put yourself in what we call a receptive mode. When you're going to sleep, you're in what's called alpha. When you wake up, you're in alpha. This is the most creative, God conscious time you could be alive. And our respective 2 homes, Jack and I did that. Well, Jack calls me up at 2:58 in the morning. This is before cell phones. This is 1988 or 89. And the whole house wakes up, and we got 88 animals. One of my daughters becoming a vet. I answer the phone after everybody's awake, and the dogs are barking, and the cats are crying, and the chickens are making noise, thinking it's time to get up. And he says, chicken soup. I said, for the soul. And we both knew we had it. We got goosebumps, which we say you got to get goosebumps, God bumps, or chili bumps, which for us is corroboration of truth. And we knew it and still got 144 rejections until finally Little Health Communications, which I didn't know at the time was basically bankrupt. They're $17 million upside down, and said, you got to buy 20,000 copies at $6 each. And, so we basically bailed them out. And we made a little bit of money by selling a lot of books and had a great time. And then once we did it, they got us the distribution we wanted, and it really took off. So remember, I said, writing a great book, which we would be open to helping you either as a consultant at hansoninstitute.com/books or at Mark Victor Hansen Library if you want us to ghostwrite it. But then, once you got a book, you're 10% done. 90% now you got to spend the rest of your time marketing, selling, hustling, advertising, coming up with new bypass markets, the likes of which nobody's ever thought of before. Now everyone says, well, you always come up with them, like being on the side of 50 million Diet Coke cases for 6 months. And my book, Chicken Soup for the Romantic Soul, next to Nora Roberts' book, Hidden Riches, we raised enough money to get 15,000 kids in Boys and Girls Clubs, or win the Red Cross out of blood. I got blood with Liddy Dole, and so on and on. But now I can tell you without telling you, in the next interview we do, I will tell you some of the stuff that we're doing that is getting great results, and our sales are going, they're going to go off the Richter scale. And it's just exciting. It's like that little kid's book. He's going to get every kid in the world to plant at least one tree, one if they're born, one if they ever plan on dying, and one if they ever plan on getting married. So each kid will plant 3 trees, and that's enough to get the trillion trees planted. So it's very exciting. And then we can do it with drones and all kinds of stuff. We're in the most exciting time in history if you're awake and if you shut off the news and if you program your mind right before you go to sleep, and maybe again when you wake up in the morning, to get the good that you desire.
Yep, absolutely. There's so much opportunity. And that's great segue into our very last question for the day, which is, I've been thinking about writing a book, but it's not on this year's agenda. Now I'm adding in here, we're wrapping up this year. I mean, we're getting now last quarter, it's coming up Black Friday, next year's gonna be on soon. But what difference will it make if I wait a few years to get my act together first?
First of all, I've not heard that question quite that way before. And I love the question because a lot of people postpone their good. When I did all the seminars around the world with Zig Ziglar, he said, someday never comes. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And gonna doers or never doers are going to begin to commence to start tomorrow. And he said his whole life changed the minute he wrote, See You at the Top. I mean, I was with him. We were doing those seminars, and he used to bring 10,000 books to the meeting. And throughout the seminar, he'd be talking, but all the time he had the book in his hand. And he was like baptizing everyone in the audience. And he'd sell 10,000 books and sign them before he left, which took hours. In any case, you got to begin immediately. What Think and Grow Rich says, if you want any wealth at all beyond a job, you got to begin at once, whether you're ready or not. Begin at once, whether you're ready or not. Begin at once, whether you're ready or not. Because if you begun, my old minister, Bob Schuller, Dr. Schuller said, begun is half done, because the hard part is you make the decision. The easy part is you to make the provision. Because once you start thinking about it, talking about it, if you take just 17 seconds, the law of attraction says you put it in the next 17 seconds and it'll compound. You're going to find out you know infinitely more than you ever thought you knew. And you are wiser, you're more insightful, you feel better about yourself, your self-esteem will rise, your self-love will rise, your self-respect will rise, and you'll arrive at a new level in the world of not only with your family, with your company, with your clients, with your outreach, but the whole world. You will help people in the world that can't get any other help other than that you're the one that pulls this off.
I love it. Yep. So the time is now to take action. That's exactly what I teach in my training academy. But it's the only time that matters. It's the only time that actually exists right now. So what are you doing right now to be the person that you want to be tomorrow? Because now is the only time you can be that person. And if you're not acting like that person, if you're not living like that person, if you're not doing as that person is right now, you're never going to be it. I love it. I love it. Well, any closing thoughts as we wrap up today? Anything you want to leave us with?
Yep. My teacher, Cabot Robert, in motivational speaking said, yesterday's a cancer tech, tomorrow's a promissory note, only now is legal tender, only now is the time you write the book. And we're here to give you a hand up, not a handout, because a handout will cripple you. And that's why entitlement is such a bad thing in the world right now. We got too many people that got a trophy and didn't do anything. I want you to write a great book, sell a lot of them, help a lot of people. And a lot of people are going to thank you in their literal prayers for having written whatever you're going to go write. And we're here to just encourage you to the max.
I love it. Well, I thank you in my prayers for joining us today and sharing your wisdom and being the person that you are. And so if you're out there and you're an action taker and you're ready to do something about it, go to the Hanson Institute if you want help from Mark. If you don't want help, go do something. Go take action. Go do something about it. But do it. Today's the day. It's time to write your book. It's time to share your story with the world. The world needs to hear it. It's going to take a minute to put it together. So start now so you can have it when you need it and you can share your thoughts and your ideas and start your new journey, right? Like it's 10%. It's the foundation of the next 100% of what you're going to create in your life. And I know I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in many people's lives. We're helping people do it every single day. And it's incredible and it's powerful. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us out there. And we appreciate you. Go have an incredible, incredible day. Thanks, Mark. And take care.